My name is Tracy Pitt. I am the Associate Director of Advising, Admission, and Student Support in the School of Nursing here at PLU. So it's nice to be with you today, and thanks so much for your interest in our nursing program. This session today is geared toward prospective first-year students. So it's most appropriate for a prospective student who is currently still in high school and looking to enter PLU as a first-year student. Okay, so if you have already graduated high school, then this might not be the best session for you. In fact, we are hosting a transfer student-oriented info session. I believe that's going to be at 4 o'clock on Thursday. So maybe check in with us. You can go ahead and use that Q&A for questions in general during this session. But if you don't feel you're in the right place, then we can definitely get you information for a different session that might make more sense for you. So again, let me just check and see if people have been joining us in the last couple minutes. No, I think we're okay. We're going to be approaching this session just talking about School of Nursing and our curriculum, our just some kind of unique facets about the program, and we will also talk about the application and the admission process towards the end of the session. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to use the Q&A to type those in. I have my colleague Chuck standing by from the Office of Admission, helping to manage our Q&A. So hopefully you'll leave with all of your questions answered as we go along. I'm going to be going through some prepared slides just so that I don't miss anything. Going back to making sure that you're in the right place and this is the best session for you. Thank you so much, Carly, for entering in this question. If you are a Running Start student, then this is a good place for you. If you are anyone who is still in high school, if you are Running Start or if you are not, we're going to address both Running Start students and folks who are not Running Start. So go ahead and stay in this session if you are Running Start, and we'll talk through that process in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hide my video while I'm going through my slides, just so I'm not distracting you too much, and I will go ahead and move forward with our presentation. Again, just please don't hesitate to use that Q&A feature to type in your questions as they come to you. All right, so we're definitely here today to talk about our bachelor's program in nursing, but ahead of every nursing info session, I like to just highlight all of the nursing programs that we offer here at PLU, just in case, you know, again, if you find that you might be in the wrong info session, we can direct you to the correct one. But I also like to talk about our different levels of programming, just to give you an idea what your future in nursing might look like, and if you'd like to include PLU in those plans for other programs, such as a master's degree or doctorate. So we'll start out with our BSN programs. We're talking about our traditional BSN today, and that is going to be our in-person program at our Tacoma campus at PLU. We do have another BSN program that is located up in Linwood, Washington. That's our accelerated Bachelor of Science in Nursing. That ABSN program is geared more toward transfer students because it's highly advisable that you have at least an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree before you enter that program. Plus it's located way up north in Linwood at our satellite campus. So I would assume that most people here today, you would probably be more interested in our traditional in-person program at the PLU campus. But if you would like more information about the ABSN program, it's pretty easy to find on our website, or you can go ahead and reach out to the Office of Admission. We also offer Master of Science in Nursing programs. We have a track if you already have a BSN, so that's the next step you could be thinking about even before you get your BSN, is if you'd like to get your master's. So we have a track for folks who already have the BSN. That's about a 1.5 year program. And then in case you are someone who already has a bachelor's degree, we have an entry level MSN program. So that's for folks who are not nurses already, but have any bachelor's degree in any major. You could be eligible for entry level MSN program. And that's obviously a Master's of Science in Nursing program. It just completely bypasses the bachelor's level because you already have a bachelor's degree. So if anybody out there already has a bachelor's degree, feel free to let us know. We can give you a link to our entry-level MSN program info sessions. And then finally, I'm not sure if there's anyone out there who has a BSN, but if that in your planning, if you know that you want to consider a doctorate, getting your Doctor of Nursing Practice or your DNP, we have tracks if you already have a BSN and tracks if you already have an MSN. And we have psych mental health nurse practitioner as well as family nurse practitioner tracks. So I don't want you to get too ahead of yourself, but I know that a lot of nursing students I talk to are pretty goal oriented. So some of you might already know that you want that DNP degree. And as you might know, that is how you can become a nurse practitioner, is by getting that doctorate degree. And you can definitely do that at PLU if you want to hang out with us for a few more years after your BSN. So I hope I didn't confuse anyone more, but like I said, I just want to highlight all of our different programs of study in case you're not in the right place, or in case you just want to start thinking ahead and thinking about your trajectory in the field of nursing. I don't see any questions in here, so I'm hoping, oh, I do see one pop up. If we get our BSN, can we take some years off school and then come back for the DNP? Absolutely. That's actually a pretty common plan for a lot of students. And actually for most DNP programs out there, it's advised that you have at least 2 years of full-time working experience as a nurse. So that is encouraged, that you, once you get your BSN, you work as an entry-level nurse for a couple years, get some experience. That'll also kind of help you figure out what you want to get your doctorate degree in as far as nursing. I mean, do you want to be a family nurse practitioner? Do you want psych mental health, or a whole other concentration that is offered at another school? Working for a couple years as a nurse will help you kind of figure that out and zero in on what you really might like to do with your DNP degree. So good question. All right, let's go ahead and move on, and we are going to zero in on the BSN program. So we do offer a traditional generalist BSN program. And what I mean by generalist is, you know, most BSN programs out there really do want to prepare you as a very well-rounded entry-level nurse. So you won't really be specializing in anything specific. You are going to get all of the education you need to be able to sit for the NCLEX and become an RN. Our traditional BSN is 2 academic years or 4 semesters. PLU is on the semester system, so we've got traditional kind of fall and spring academic calendars. And so we start 48 students per term. So that's 96 students per year are entering our BSN programs. We just operate during the standard semester, so fall and spring semester. We do not have classes during summer or January term. PLU has a special shortened January term where it's kind of a flex term here at PLU. It's the month of January and students can take 1 4-credit class at an accelerated pace during J term, or they might be able to take that time off. They might be able to study away or take an elective course during J term. We want to allow students that flexibility, so there's actually no nursing classes that you would be taking in January or summer for that matter. So that's what J term means. You might see that from time to time as you're reading more about PLU. And as I'll talk about later, when we talk about admission a little bit more, we have admission tracks and different applications for folks who are already current PLU students, folks who are transfer students, and by transfer, I mean folks who have already graduated from high school. And then we have different applications that I'll talk about later for folks who are still in high school and looking to enter PLU as a first-year student. So don't worry about all of that. I'm going to talk about admission in a little while. But I wanted to point that out because we admit on a cohort basis. We admit a cohort of 48 students each term. So you would begin the program with 47 other students. You'll have your classes with those 47 other students as you move through the program. and you would graduate with those 47 other students. So we keep you together as a cohort. You move through the nursing curriculum together as a group. So they are going to become, you're going to become very close with your cohort. Cohorts do show some pretty strong learning outcomes. There's a lot of positive outcomes that come along with cohort modeled learning. So we are happy to kind of offer that as students are able to move through the program. You also don't really choose what classes that you take and when. The whole program is laid out for you, so you do have to complete everything in sequence. And it is a full-time program only. Once you start in the School of Nursing, you are going to be in full-time nursing credit loads for fall and spring semesters until you graduate. So there's no part-time option. You do have to, continue on with that full-time curriculum. And so that being said, since it is a full-time program credit-wise, this program is not designed for students who are working more than 20 hours a week. If that is something you need to do during school, this program might not be the best option for you, just because our program is very rigorous. It really does take up a lot of time during the day. And actually, I think my next slide talks about that just a little bit more. But let me move over to the Q&A. Thanks everybody for using that Q&A to type in your questions. Okay, one is about how to apply, and I promise I am going to talk about that in a few slides, but I'm going to try to stay on track with the slides that I have now. So let's keep that question open. And so again, if your questions are about how to apply or admission, I'm just going to go ahead and save those, but I promise I'll get to them at the end. Another question, is 48 the max that is accepted in each cohort? Yes, we have very targeted enrollment numbers that we hit, and we can only take 48 students per cohort, no more and no less. So there are 96 spots available per year. Good question. Is the full-time load similar to doing full-time at Pierce College credit-wise? Yeah, so Pierce College is a quarter-based system, and so most of their classes are 5-credit classes. And I believe at Pierce full-time is about 15 credits or so, if I'm not mistaken. A semester school is going to hover around the same credit load. Most of our courses in nursing are 2, 3, and 4-credit courses, but your total credit load per term is going to be 16 credits. So I would say yes, that a full-time credit load here at PLU is going to be about the same as a full-time credit load at another college. Just depends on if they're semester or quarter, how they break down their classes. But yeah, it's definitely considered full-time and comparable, I would say. Good questions. So let me talk a little bit more about the life of a nursing student. As I alluded to in the last slide, this program is academically rigorous. It is a very full-time course load. You are going to be busy in classes, labs, simulation exercises, and off-campus clinicals during all terms that you're enrolled in the nursing program. We do have high academic and professional standards. We, as you'll learn more about this when you would start in the program, we do hold students to a very high standard as far as academically. Once you're in the program, a passing grade is a C grade. And then nurses are definitely held to that higher standard as far as professionalism and ethics go. So we do expect a lot out of our nursing students. So you can just expect to be very busy during your time with us in the program. You'll have about 2 full days off campus in clinicals most terms. Depending on the semester, that will depend where you're going to clinical and how many hours you're doing. But you are going to need to get yourself to clinical. So we require that our students have reliable transportation to make sure that they can get to their clinical shifts on time. I do have a slide that talks a little bit more about clinical, so I'll get to that in just a minute. But As far as classes, labs, simulation, and clinicals go, we require students to be incredibly flexible because you're not going to have very many choices of when you can be in classes or labs. And your clinical assignments are handed down to you. Those are an assignment. Students do not choose where and when they go to clinical. We actually can't really even take students' input in mind when we're having to make those clinical assignments. It's kind of a long story as to why, but we don't really have control of our clinical placements very much either. None of the nursing programs in Washington really do, because the clinical placements are managed by a statewide consortium, and they are the ones who hand the schools all of the clinical placements. And so we have to kind of just turn around and hand those down to you. Okay, so you are just going to need to have a lot of flexibility while you're here with us in the program. But that being said, I think our students are able to really thrive at PLU and get involved in different things. A lot of our students, depending on how many credits that they transfer in, what kind of classes they've taken in the past, you might have room to add a minor, especially if you're willing to take some summer classes or January term classes. Again, that J term is kind of open as a flexible term. So students are able to study away during that J term if that fits into your academic plan. PLU has excellent study away options that I would highly recommend. Some of our students also participate in sports, extracurriculars. We do have a really great nursing club. It's called Delta Iota Chi that a lot of our nursing students get involved in. It's a great way to network with other nursing students. You get some volunteering in, some good experience. So we would definitely recommend that students really get involved as much as they can here at PLU. And, most of our students do work. I don't want to scare students away from working. Plenty of our students can make that happen if that's important to you to be able to work during your time at PLU. We just really can't guarantee that you're going to have a lot of time on your hands to work more than 20 hours a week. And even then, some students do choose not to work because of the kind of rigorous nature of our courses. Okay. So hopefully that kind of helps you manage your expectations a little bit about what your time in the program could look like. I have a clinical question, but I know I have a slide on that. I thought it was this slide, but I think it's the next slide. So don't worry, I'm going to get to that clinical question, but let me talk just a little bit about our faculty really quick. PLU has a ton of faculty members that work with us, some part-time, some full-time, and you'll see faculty as the leads in all of your courses. PLU does not have TAs lecturing. All of your courses are led by faculty. Your labs are held by our faculty. Our sim exercises are, we have a faculty coordinator for all of our simulation, and you'll also have an actual faculty member out there with you at clinical. So PLU really isn't big on the TA kind of lecture structure anyway, but you may have 2, 3, 4 different faculty members that you're actually working with on any given class. So we're really proud of the way that students have such access to our faculty members. They are incredibly knowledgeable in their specialty areas. We have great student to faculty ratios as well, 8-to-1 in clinicals. So you're going to be in a small group in your clinical assignments. And then you'll also be broken up into small groups in labs as well. And our faculty are not only great teachers, teaching really is #1 at PLU, but they also advise. You'll be assigned to a faculty for academic advising once you start the program as well. So again, we really pride ourselves in the way that students are able to access kind of mentorship through learning from faculty so much. And speaking of lab, we did just open a new simulation, and it's technically called the Clinical Learning and Simulation Center. I just call it the lab all the time, but we have our skills lab that you see here. This is like a quarter of the actual lab. The lab is huge. It's roomy and beautiful, state-of-the-art technology. And then upstairs on the second floor, we have our simulation suites with high fidelity mannequins that can simulate a wide range of human body functions, irregular heartbeats, slurring speech, and childbirth. It's like a huge range of simulation exercises that you are going to be able to kind of witness at first, and then a lot of your training will be in simulation before we have you actually go out into the clinical areas and work with real patients. So we're really excited about this beautiful space that we have for our nursing labs. And just a little bit more about our curriculum, namely clinical, because I know a lot of students are curious about what actually, what's clinical all about. We partner with nearly 100 different agencies to send our students out to clinical. So you're going to be in a wide range of clinical settings, which will include hospitals and acute care facilities. But only about half of nurses actually work in hospitals. So you're also going to be going out to community clinics, rehab facilities, long-term care facilities, nursing homes, memory care, and also doing some home health and hospice care as well. So you're going to get a really wide range of clinical experiences out there. All in all, you'll do about 600 hours of clinical experience. Some of your simulation activity will be able to count for you as that clinical. But a lot of those hours are going to be off campus, in-person clinical, and those are kind of the clinical assignments that I was talking about earlier. Like I said, we need flexibility from students because clinical shifts are assigned. And most of our placements are within 30 miles of PLU, if not all. I think technically they're all within 50 miles, but the vast majority are within 30 miles. So if you're familiar with the South Sound region, our clinicals are usually, there's a lot that are in the Tacoma area, but you might go out towards Puyallup, but not really that much farther east as far as I know. As far north as typically like Auburn, Des Moines, Tukwila, Federal Way, as far south as kind of the Lacey, Tumwater area, and maybe even down to the base, but really not much further than that. And then some of our placements are also in Gig Harbor. So we really kind of stay within that about 30 miles of PLU. But again, your flexibility is required because, you really won't know where you're placed term to term. You will get your placement obviously before you have to show up to clinical, but it won't be that much, you won't get that much notice ahead of the term about where you're going, because a lot of times we don't even know, because again, those placements are handed down to us by the consortium. So I hope that answered that clinical question earlier. And we also got, are we given our clinical schedule? Yeah, it's really not given to you that much ahead of time. But you typically will go to the same place for the whole semester. And actually, depending on the term, you might have lab in the first part of the semester and then clinical in the second half of the semester. So it's not like you would need to show up at clinical on like the first day of class for a term anyway. So we know that students need to plan, so we try to get that clinical schedule out to you as soon as we can. But it's usually not like months ahead of time. Okay. And then, as I said earlier, you're going to be in a small group of about 8 students when you go out to clinical, and that's in your first 3 terms. But in your 4th term, your final term, you will do something called a capstone or a preceptorship. And what that is that it's a class, namely, where you will do a research project as part of your capstone. But in conjunction with that class, you'll also do a one-on-one preceptorship with an experienced registered nurse in our area. So that means that there are preceptors out there that are, maybe they're PLU graduates. They have a relationship with us. We match those students one-on-one out at that preceptor's facility. And you will do about, I think, gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head how many hours. I think about 200. You'll do 200 of your clinical hours will be in that 4th semester senior capstone. And actually, since we do organize those preceptorships ourselves, those actually don't come down from the clinical consortium. We ask you for your input on where or when or what unit you would like to do your preceptorship on. So if you are going to get a wide breadth of where you're going for clinical, so you're going to be in hospitals, you're going to go to some kind of rehab facility, nursing home, long-term care facility. There is a community. I'd say we do put a large emphasis on community. So you will likely go to a community clinic. But if you are really interested in one area, then you might be able to put that down as one of your preferences. I think we ask for your like top 4 or 5 either agencies that you want to go to or your clinical areas that you want for your preceptorship, and we do our best to honor those as much as we can. So I did see some questions coming through, but I think maybe as I was talking, I answered them. But let me just make sure, because I do know that a lot of students have a lot of clinical questions. Okay, yeah. How far away are clinicals? Do we get the schedule beforehand? I think I pretty much answered all of these. Yes, we do have partners in pediatrics. Pediatrics is by far the most popular clinical area that I will hear that prospective students want to go into in nursing, which I think is great. However, we typically only have so many preceptorships available in pediatrics because it is so popular. Some students might find that they are drawn to another area because, I mean, honestly, I feel like most students say they really want to be peds nurses when they, before they get started in nursing. And I'll go off on a tangent here really quick. I think pediatrics is a really great way to spend your career as a nurse, but you could get pulled into another direction that you might not expect during the course of the program. So as much as I, want to kind of guarantee that you can get a peds placement, it's not really going to impede your career as a peds nurse, I would say, if you don't get a peds preceptorship. And I would just say also keep your mind open. If you are not spending as much time in peds as you assume that you might, we're responsible for getting you a well-rounded nursing education. And so, you will be a very, I would say all of our PLU graduates are definitely competitive for any type of entry-level RN job. So, and I never really hear about students not getting enough peds experience, so they never get a job in peds. That's not really how it works. So, but who knows? You may not want to do peds after you experience it in your clinical. That does happen to a lot of students, where they go in thinking they're going to do one thing and then they just get pulled in a complete other direction. So keep your mind open for those experiences as well. Would you suggest having a personal vehicle to get around? Yes, if you can swing it, I would try to have your own car, but I would say you really only need that during your last semester at PLU. Because you're going to be in a small clinical group. You can kind of buddy up with folks to carpool. So I would say you can definitely get away without a car during the first 3 terms of the program. But you may want to consider trying to have your own car, just for really reliable transportation to and from your clinical sites. Okay, so I think I'm good on questions. If I'm not, feel free to type those into the Q&A again, but I think I'm pretty well caught up. So I'm going to go ahead and move on from this. Okay, so I just want to highlight a few program successes. In the past, we've been able to achieve really high pass rates on the NCLEX. So basically, graduating from PLU with your BSN is a great achievement in itself. It does not guarantee that you can become a nurse. You actually have to take the NCLEX, which is the RN licensing exam, in order to become a nurse. So we do our best to teach, or to kind of mold our curriculum around that test. So it's really important to us that our students are passing the NCLEX as much on the first try as possible. We do see pass rates frequently above 90%, and that's obviously the percentage of folks who are passing on the first try. Okay, so we've been able to do that really well in the past 5 years. I think that we did take a little bit of a dip in the cohort who was kind of in the middle of the program when COVID hit in spring of 2020, that cohort really did struggle with the NCLEX. And so we have been able to improve since then. I think a lot of schools kind of took a little bit of a hit on our NCLEX, the NCLEX pass rates at that time. It was just all in all a really difficult time. But, you know, we offer students so many resources. Even just today, I heard about an NCLEX study session that was happening, you know, that was available to all students. And we actually have an NCLEX prep course that is that's in the last semester of the program. And so you are going to get quite a lot of NCLEX test prep from us, including Kaplan tests. So Kaplan, we contract with them to offer NCLEX style tests that you will take throughout your time in the program as well. So it's also called a predictor exam. So if you're passing your NCLEX, your Kaplan NCLEX prep tests, then it will be able to predict how likely you are to pass the actual NCLEX when it's time. So we think that that is a really useful tool. We actually have a full-time faculty member who is our NCLEX prep coordinator. So Dr. Bannock-Wood is responsible for making sure our students are utilizing resources to study for the test. She is analyzing NCLEX data. She is monitoring changes in the tests. All kinds of stuff. It's actually really exciting to have her kind of dedication to supporting our students to passing the NCLEX. We also weave into our academic advising model as well. We want you to be talking with your faculty advisor about your progress on the Kaplan prep tests. So there's a lot of effort that we put into helping students pass that test on the first try. You know, and if they don't pass on the first try, it's very rare that a student doesn't pass on the second try. In my 7 years in School of Nursing, I think I can think of about 3 students total who have not passed on their second try. So almost everybody is able to pass on that second try if they don't pass on the first try. So I think that's a pretty good sign as well. And then we also have a really outstanding retention rate within the School of Nursing. We tend to graduate our students on time. Over 95% of BSN students graduate on time from the School of Nursing. So once you are admitted to the School of Nursing, it's really rare that you would need to withdraw or you know, just not be successful in the program. We don't weed out students once they are admitted to the program. We want to see all 48 of our students graduate, you know, in each cohort. And I think our faculty mentorship, our faculty kind of access, the access that our students have to faculty, and our academic advising models really support that as well. Okay, I don't see any questions coming through on that, so let me go ahead. Okay, it might, this is kind of maybe where a lot of your questions are going to be coming in. I'm not sure, but I'm going to do my best to be really clear about how to apply. And I know there's a lot of words on this slide. I'm so sorry. Don't take this time now to be reading the entire slide. I'm going to talk through the ways to apply depending on who you are, okay? And I think it should be pretty clear how to apply once I get through this whole slide, okay? So do your best to stay with me. If you are currently a student at PLU right now, we don't get a lot of current PLU students at our info sessions because they get a lot of info from their academic advisors about the application and the program and things. But if you are here now and you are at PLU currently, and even if you're a freshman or a sophomore, these first couple bullet points are for you. If you are a current PLU student, you can apply to the School of Nursing during your sophomore year. So that does depend on kind of your credits that you've amassed at PLU or before you got to PLU. But if you are a sophomore and you are on track to having all of the prerequisites complete before you would start the program, then you can apply. And actually now all the applications are open right now. So it's a really good time for everyone to be attending an info session, by the way. But for current PLU students, the application is posted on our School of Nursing website. we want you to touch base with your academic advisor. So that would be either Chris Plain or Sebastian Bostwick. I believe most of our pre-nursing students have either of them as your advisor. Make sure that you have that plan to complete the nursing prerequisites before you would intend to start. Yeah, we'd love to see your application come through when you're ready. For our current PLU students, our priority deadline is February 1st, but we do accept late applications until April 1st. Okay, so now would be a good time to start thinking about completing that application if you are a current PLU student. All right, so the next two are for folks who are not at PLU already, if you are still in high school. So, and I've broken it out. The first one is if you're a high school senior and you are not planning on earning 60 college credits before you graduate. So basically, that means you won't be earning an AA degree at the same time as you graduate high school. Okay, so that's the kind of the running start plan that we've alluded to. If you are not planning to get that AA degree as you graduate high school, and that I would assume that's usually most of the folks who are in these info sessions. So you could apply for conditional admission. And that basically means that you apply to PLU as a first year student during your senior year of high school, and you complete that standard first year application. You will want to work with your admission counselor. That person, we can help you look that up if you want to reach out to us or go on our website, but you'll want to connect with your PLU admission counselor and complete that standard first year PLU application. You also need to complete, this is why I want you to work with your PLU admission counselor, because you have to actually complete a second application to the School of Nursing, and you can apply for conditional admission. Basically, when you apply as a first year student and you apply for conditional admission, the School of Nursing will consider you for admission to the nursing program in your third year at PLU. So that means that if you get conditional admission, you would know that a seat is being saved for you in the nursing program, which is really cool. So you can commit to PLU knowing that it's not, an unknown whether you, have a seat in the major that you want. I know that's a struggle for a lot of students, is having to commit to a school and then having to apply later into your major when you don't even know if you're going to get into that major. So I think it's a really good deal if you are selected for conditional admission. That would be usually in your third year at PLU, depending on if you've got a lot of credits, if you're not getting that AA degree, but you're still bringing in a lot of credits. Maybe you've got AP stats and, maybe you did some partial running start. You can request to the nursing program once you get to PLU. We can put you on a waiting list to start a little earlier if it doesn't really make sense for you to wait until your third year. Depending on the space that we have, we may be able to shuffle you into an earlier cohort, depending on your academic plan. We obviously can't guarantee that, but you would at least, upon meeting all the admission, the conditional admission criteria, you have to be doing well in your classes. You need at least a 3.0 cum GPA to hang on to that conditional admission and actually start in the nursing program. Plus you need at least a B- or better in the nursing prerequisites. But if you maintain all of that, you can have that seat in your third year at PLU. Okay. It does say here that this path is not recommended for students with a pre-nursing AA degree, but I think that it really could be a good option for some of you, even if you are earning your AA degree. So, I guess I'll go into that in just a little bit. But let me go through, I think I saw a lot of questions kind of pop up about conditional admission. Okay, how many students out of the 96 are accepted through the conditional admission? Is it harder to get in that way? That's a good question. I would say usually in every cohort, it really depends. We don't have an actual like quota of students that we admit, or there's not like a percentage of each cohort that have to be conditional. So it's not like we really hold ourselves to certain numbers of like this many conditional students and this many, transfer students, this many running start or whatever. But typically we will get about, I would say 50 conditionals coming to PLU every year. And we have more than enough space to if all of those students do want to continue in nursing, because some students get conditional admission, and when they start the prerequisites at PLU, they might find themselves drawn into another direction. Some of them change their major. We don't make you major in nursing once you get to PLU and start your classes. So that does happen to, I don't know, at least half a dozen students, maybe even a dozen. They end up changing their major, going a different route once they get to PLU. So it's hard to say how many of those 50 we kind of keep and actually end up starting, because that just fluctuates every year depending on students and what they want to do. And there's also a handful that aren't able to meet our academic requirements, the B- in the nursing prerequisites and the 3.0 cumulative GPA at PLU. So that does happen from time to time as well. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea. And I would say that a lot of applicants to our conditional program are very competitive. Typically, if you're getting A and B grades in high school, you're taking a pretty strong math and science curriculum. You've got some service-based extracurriculars, and you show some good writing skills in your essay, I would say that you would be a really competitive applicant. I don't really have a percentage of how many students who apply for conditional get it. But if we can be reasonably confident that you can come to PLU and be successful in those prerequisite courses, we want to give conditional admission to as many students as we can. But we know that students who are applying for conditional admission, I think the average of number of schools students apply to now is like 8 or 10. So we know that students are applying all over the country. So we obviously extend conditional admission offers out to students, and they choose to go elsewhere, so, but I would say typically we yield about 50 students who come for conditional. Oh, sorry, that might have been a little bit of a tangent, but hopefully that answered your question. Okay, so let's talk about, I see some questions about running start. I want to start at a two-year community college. You get some credits there as a pre-nursing student. If I were to transfer from PLU, could I be in the nursing program earlier? It's possible. Yeah, so we do want to work with students on helping them, if they're admitted, starting in the nursing program sooner. But there are students who are in similar situations who got in last year that are ahead on their credits and are looking for sooner admission. So we're trying to get those students from last year into the pipeline. So, the bottom line is that, we do fill all the space that we have, but it is limited space. We do our best with getting students in as soon as we can. So, we take a look at the credits you have and your progress in the prereqs, and we'll do our best to work with you. We do have a wait list for students who are admitted for them to start earlier. So it just kind of depends, on if space opens up in our cohort and things like that. Okay. But yeah, if you are not a senior yet and you want to go get some credits at a community college, I would say go for it. It's totally up to you if you want to take that on at this time. But I don't think it makes you more competitive for conditional if you have college credits. And actually, we do like to see that students are kind of making the most of their time in high school by doing really well in their high school classes, and maybe taking on some AP or IB classes, and also getting involved at their schools. We really do appreciate the commitment that students show to high school sports and clubs, and working and, volunteering. And, for a lot of our Running Start students, they tend not to get involved as much. So I'm not saying that would hold you back or anything, but I think it's from the trends that I've seen, some of our Running Start students, they don't have as many of the extracurriculars or volunteer hours as I see from kind of traditional high school students who are not going the Running Start route. So let me move on to our Running Start students. So if you are full-time Running Start and you intend to earn that AA degree simultaneously as you're graduating high school, then you do have a different application track that you can take advantage of. So you would still be applying to PLU as a first-year student, because everyone who is still in high school has to apply to PLU as a first-year student, as like a baseline, okay? And you also have to do a second application for the nursing program. But instead of doing that conditional application, you could do we have a specific application on our website, and it's very wordy, but it's the nursing application for associate's degree seeking high school seniors. Okay, so hopefully that kind of narrows down who you are, because we want to make sure that students are doing the correct application. So if that's you, then you would be doing 2 applications. The priority deadline for that nursing application is February 1st, but we accept late applications until April 1st. And we would be looking at that application along with your first-year PLU application, and we would consider you for admission into the nursing program during your first year at PLU, either fall or spring of your first year at PLU. Okay, so that does kind of put you on a faster track than if you applied as conditional admission. Okay, if you would like, you could apply for the direct admission through the Running Start application, and you could do the conditional admission. If you just want to be considered for both and just see where you land, see what your admission offer is. I won't dissuade you from doing that. Some people do that every year. But I would say that the pool that these Running Start students are applying in, for direct entry into the next term. So we're talking fall 23, spring 24. Okay. That pool, you're in the same pool as the current PLU students, and you're in the same pool as transfer students. And this is our most competitive pool. Okay. So, I guess I just want to kind of let you know that we have about 300 applicants in this pool. And like I said earlier, we don't really have any quotas of having a certain number of Running Start students, certain number of transfers, certain number of PLU sophomores. We put everyone into the same pool. Okay. So it's a more competitive route. I would say that you would probably have a higher chance of admission if you applied for the conditional admission, but only if you're willing to spend at least a year at PLU before you start the nursing program. And maybe you are. PLU has excellent classes that you can take if you're interested in other areas. If you want to do a minor, maybe your AA degree that you're getting is a general AA degree and you still have a couple of prereqs to finish up, then maybe conditional is the right path for you. You might want to take advantage of PLU's financial aid. We offer large financial awards from our endowment to first-year students. So it may not be as expensive as you think to attend PLU for your freshman year. And then you could ask us to try to move up your conditional admission. And if we have room, we can bump you up to maybe starting in your sophomore year if you have that AA degree already. So there's a little bit of flexibility if you do want to apply for conditional admission if you already have your AA degree, even though it says not recommended here. I think it's different for each student and kind of what your priorities are. Okay, I've got a question coming in. What's the difference between direct entry and conditional entry? Yeah, so the main differences would be you would be applying for direct entry if you already have that associate's degree, and you're going to have all of the nursing prerequisites complete before you would start the program. And direct entry, it would put you on a faster track to completing your nursing degree because if you apply for that direct admission, you're being considered for either fall 23 or spring 24 entry into the nursing program. Whereas if you apply conditional, then you would be getting an admission offer for your third year at PLU. So I think, oh my gosh, I can't always calculate years in my head, but I think that would be fall 24, spring 25, I believe right now, or maybe, oh my gosh, are we into 25, 26? Sorry, but it basically would be for your third year at PLU. But again, you could work with us and see if we can bump that admission entry sooner. But your soonest point of entry, if you have that AA degree, would be to apply direct as an associate's degree seeking high school senior. So I hope that made sense. I know it is a little bit confusing, but I'm hoping that everyone kind of understands what group or groups that they fall into. Maybe some of you want it, maybe if you're getting the AA degree, you might want to apply for both direct admission and conditional admission. But then I also want to give the caveat that the most common way, I'd say, for students who apply to PLU straight out of high school, I would say the most common way to get admitted is as a PLU sophomore, actually, because we get, I wouldn't say we get a huge volume of applications as a PLU sophomore, but they do make really great applicants. So if you don't get conditional admission or you aren't awarded direct admission, we would love for you to come to PLU anyway, and you would have another chance at applying, during your freshman year if you have, a lot of credits or all the prereqs done, or apply as a sophomore when you get to that point, because we do see a pretty strong admission rate for PLU sophomores, just because, yeah, they make really great applicants and they tend to have really great essays, and we just really appreciate the kind of perspective and the values they're able to talk through in their essays. So so I would say that if you are interested in PLU, don't let your nursing admission hold you back if you're not selected. It is a very competitive program. Definitely work with your admission counselor to kind of evaluate your options on coming to PLU anyway and applying as a sophomore. Okay, I see a question. I definitely would complete my prerequisites within the first year. Okay, great. Is it common that the cohorts have room for me to start on my sophomore year? If you are conditionally admitted and you're going to be completing your prereqs during your first year at PLU, I would say there is a chance that you could start sooner. I would not say that there's a chance that you could start during that first year, but I think what you said is you would have your prerequisites completed during that first year. So that's hard to say. I would say that usually we can bump you up by at least one semester when there's students, who are really on track to be ready to start earlier than the third year at PLU. Typically we can get you somewhere into your second year, but I have to keep saying that is not a guarantee, but I would say it's pretty likely that if you're doing well in classes, you're going to have all the prereqs done, you have advanced standing with your credits, we could probably get you up at least one semester, maybe two, depending on what our numbers look like and if we have space available. Okay, we are nearing the end of our session, and I just want to respect everybody's time, including my own, and end on time. So if you have questions that we just haven't gotten to yet, now is a great time to use the Q&A and type those in. But I'm just going to go over and see if there's any other questions I didn't get to. I see a question that I think I alluded to kind of financial aid as I was talking, but I'm really not the best source of financial information. I would definitely steer you into the direction of your PLU assigned admission counselor. If you're not sure who that is, you can find that out on the PLU website. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, Chuck, but you can also contact the Office of Admission, and I bet they would be more than happy to look up who that admission counselor is and connect you to them. Because yeah, our admission counselors are a really great source of information when it comes to scholarships at PLU, as well as your financial aid award. Yeah, I'm just not sure about what our deadlines are for different scholarships, but let's plan on getting connected with that admission counselor to figure that part out. Okay. I think we are okay on questions. But we got 2 more minutes. If there's any lingering questions, let's see. Okay, if you do think of a question later, we are more than happy to help you out. I would say, again, the best way would be to connect with your admission counselor for questions that come up a little bit later. PLU also has some visit days coming up. I believe I'm just going to do my best at plugging our fall preview day, which is on November 11th. There is I think it's a pretty full day of activities here at PLU where you can learn more about the academics, student life. I think you can take a tour, connect with your admission counselor, submit your deposit, or sorry, maybe not submit your deposit, maybe just get on track to apply. I think that's what we're talking about. Maybe even spring you a deposit. Sorry about that, I misspoke. But you can learn a lot more about PLU and what it's like to be a student here on our fall preview day. So again, hooking up with that admission counselor is going to be the best way to get more information as it relates to coming to PLU as a first-year student and applying using the correct applications. Okay. All right. I think our questions have leveled off, so I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye and thank everyone for attending today. Thanks so much for your interest in PLU. I really look forward to seeing your applications come through, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.